So the sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
Lewis Cine's name came up a lot, and just that kind of unique skill set that we can add to our back end, that kind of interchangeable feel that we can maybe have at that safety position. It'll make for great competition because we feel really good, obviously, about Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, and the ability to add this player in Lewis to compete in that room. And then there's a lot of things you can do personnel-wise to, be dynamic on defense and just those interchangeable pieces that allow us to put put that master plan together that Ed and his staff are going to do. I'm really excited about that.
There he is, Kevin O'Connell, the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. So, yeah, that was an interesting quote because the first part of it, kind of the lead up to the to the money part that Dex played there was that the Vikings talked to several players from the Georgia defense. Because how many Georgia have like 7 defensive players?
I think 5 went in the
crazy,
first round.
Just ridiculous.
Yeah, 5.
So 5 players in the first round, and the Vikings talked to pretty much all of them or a bunch of them and asked each of them, which of your college teammates would you love to take with you to the next level? And Lewis Cine's name came up a lot, O'Connell said. So interesting feedback there. All right, speaking of feedback, this is Feedback Friday on Mackie and Judd, daily Minnesota sports entertainment, therapy, speculation. We're coming off just a ridiculously fun night at Surly Brewing Company. We and then all of you guys, the listeners and fans of Purple Daily and the Vikings, tapped out the Before I Die ale that they produced specifically for last night, a one-night only thing. So thank you for being thirsty last night and somewhat angry, according to some of the feedback that we're getting here. So we make these Friday shows all about you and your comments, critiques, concerns. And you can send us anytime during the week through the SKOR North app feedback via the quick message button toward the bottom. So let's just... The first section of this, boys, is just going to be pissed off fans.
Okay.
I must have sifted through 200 different emails via the SKOR North app from the middle of the draft last night till this morning. 90% of them are people just irate.
That sounds about right.
Happened.
Yeah. That sounds accurate.
I'm with them.
So let's talk through it. Here. Let's start with Brad Tabas here. It's kind of an off-subject one via the SKOR North app. He says, am I the only one who thought that Judd looked like an old Kirk Cousins during the draft party last night?
Oh, wow.
Someone said that on the microphone last night, too.
Yeah,
you look like Kirk Cousins aged 25 years or something.
I hope for Kirk's sake that's not the case, but I mean, I'll take it.
Do you have a tube of rocks in your driveway where you take one out every month?
No, and I don't have meat to grill that is like somehow pure looking, which is also very odd.
Okay. I want to apologize too because I mixed up last week Kirk Cousins' favorite band.
Yeah, you did.
I said it was Nickelback.
Oh, it was Creed.
It was Creed.
Oh, I didn't
Put some
catch
respect on Creed.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
Did you really?
Sorry to all involved.
Did you really mix it up, Phil?
I feel like those two bands are very interchangeable.
Did you
in
really
the late
mix
90s,
it up?
early 2000s? Just going to put them in the same bin there. Okay, Jack Tobridge via Twitter says, is this how the Packers fans feel when their GMs make dumb decisions? Lloyd Heim via the SKOR North app says, ouch. Fan from day one, 1961, Norm Van Brocklin, Joe Kapp, Chuck Foreman, nothing like sitting at the old Met. Saw the ref get nailed with a Jack Daniels bottle after Drew Pearson threw down Nate Wright to catch the game winner for Dallas.
Armin Terzian, yeah.
And he's saying, that's my history, and last night was not fun. Led Zepp 33 on Twitter said, somewhere Spielman is laughing hysterically. Absolutely horrible. Frank Marino via the SKOR North app. Let me be very clear. The Vikings got the equivalent of the Montreal screw job in Vegas last night by their own general manager. You pick at 32. You pick at 32 because you won the Super Bowl, not because you're the Vikings.
Right.
They've had 2 losing seasons. They're not good enough to pick at 32. When there were great players at 12 to help them, they did not get compensation that justifies this move. This was a horrid first round on all levels. I'll pause the negative feedback train there for a second.
It's hard to disagree with that. Like, again, you passed up at 12. Are you telling me there wasn't one player that you... So you basically at 12 looked at everyone who was still available and said, none of them. I'm going back 20 spots to 32. Yeah, I mean, look, the people who are pissed off and confused, I'm on board with them. I don't get it. This feels like the Vikings got cute. And that's what Rick did. And I keep telling
I don't think Rick would have made this trade, actually.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but I'm just saying Rick got cute a lot. And I keep saying on this show over and over, eventually we're going to find out that Kwesi was hired because he's different than Rick in some way. And Kwesi keeps proving me wrong. So, I get the frustration. I totally get it.
Well, I want a couple things here. Let me get to Brian Orcutt here via the SKOR North app. I think sums up in about 7 words the exact way that I feel, which is, like the player, I absolutely hate the trade. And that's kind of where I'm at with this. In a vacuum, we talked about this on Purple Daily today. Lewis Cine is a really good player. He was the leading tackler and defensive MVP of the national championship game for one of the great defenses in college football history. And so in a vacuum, I am fine with Lewis Cine, and maybe even semi-thrilled that they found a guy that plays at that level, on that level of defense, and seems to be a great character guy, intelligent, all those things. And I will also say this. I like stockpiling picks, not 7th-round picks, but if you can find ways to add more 2nd, 3rd, and 4th-round picks, you find really good starting caliber players within those rounds. I don't love the Vikings taking whatever it was, 13, 6th, and 7th rounders over a 2-year stretch, 2019-20, but the draft tends to be a crapshoot, even in the 1st and 2nd round. So if you have more stabs at 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th round players, I think that helps you build your team. So I'm good on those 2 things. But I just think if you're going to move from 12 back to 32, I think you need more than 1 3rd-round pick and move up 12 spots in the 2nd round. So I think Brian Orcutt nailed it. I like the player, not in love with the trade.
I like the player. I don't love the position. I don't know that's the safety position is one that I'm dying to give a 5th-year option to. I think a cornerback in my world would probably be preferable. I guess here's my problem too, though. At some point in time, when you trade back all the time, or you trade back 20 spots from 12 to 32, my problem is this: do you not trust yourself to have identified a potential star player at 12? Like, are you telling me I'd rather have? I mean, that's what Rick did. I'd rather have just more chances. And you know what? In the 4th round or something, knock yourself out. Yeah, you might be right. You might be wrong. But number 12 in the entire draft, like, we're talking about the world of football here.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that you're like, I don't really like any of these players. I just unless you definitively win that trade, which then I'm on board with. Like, if you pillaged the Lions, if we all came in here today and said, "Woo, boy, did Kwesi get over on then I'm on board totally." But you didn't come close to that.
Headline from the Lions SB Nation blog, Pride of Detroit. Detroit Lions swindled the Minnesota Vikings in a 1st-round trade. And then the subheadline is,
I love that word, ...
and walked away with arguably the most talented receiver in the draft. So that's how the Lions fan blogs are seeing it this morning. Now, they must have really had, because obviously they could have had Kyle Hamilton at 12, and they just could have kept their picks intact.
Sure.
But they must have had Kyle Hamilton and Lewis Cine close enough on their board that having Lewis Cine and an additional 3rd-round pick and then move up a few spots in the 2nd was worth more to them than drafting Kyle Hamilton with the 12th pick, which they could have, right?
Absolutely. The other thing that I don't like about this is I am not completely adverse to making trades with teams in your division, but I will say this. This seems to me to be an interesting gamble. If this guy flops, hey, great. That's great for the Vikings. But if he doesn't flop, like, let's just say he's damn good. Let's just say he deserved to be the 12th pick. You've got to now face this guy twice a year for quite a while. Yeah. And this is a passing league. And if the Lions ever get the quarterback right, and I mean, these are all ifs, but if they ever get the quarterback right, you are now in a league that favors passing, that purposely sets up rules that are going to go against your defensive backs. And this guy is going to be potentially the beneficiary.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah, of course, it also could be that the Lions are still incompetent and they whiff on a lot of high-profile first-round wide receivers.
True.
And maybe this is another one. Sure. So Derek Nolan via the SKOR North app says, to fill Judd Declan, the whole SKOR North team. By the way, our one of our other producers, Pat, who does a lot of video production, I think the over-under was 2.5 times mistaking Pat for Declan. I saw at least 5 times. I saw people walk up to Pat confidently,
hey, Declan,
introducing themselves to what they thought was Declan.
I could easily make that mistake.
Yeah.
And I work with both of them and see them.
It's even more spooky when Pat and I are both wearing like the same plaid button-up, which I often do in the office, and I get it. He does look like my brother, which is funny because brother Liam's been on this show,
Looks nothing like you.
and brother Liam and I, if you were blindfolded, you can kind of tell it. We sound alike. We look nothing alike. Nothing alike.
That's hilarious.
He looks more like I do.
Yeah, maybe he's your brother, and Pat's actually my actual brother.
Judd does have a kid.
Yeah.
Judd does have a kid.
Name's Liam.
So Derek says, to the SKOR North crew, thanks for an awesome time last night at Surly. We drove up from South Dakota. It did not disappoint. Thank you guys. No, thank you for making a long drive from South Dakota. A little reflection after last night's trade and also seeing how the night played out. I can almost guarantee no team was offering their first-round pick next year to move up. That's cool. We all kind of hoped, right? Oh, my God, they're moving back 20 spots. They for sure got a first-round pick next year.
Right.
But he's saying that probably didn't happen. So we need to stop pretending like that was an option. I'm guessing they didn't like the wide receivers left on the board at 12 because a bunch went off before it got to the Vikings. So they did get good value for their trade by moving up 12 spots in the second round and getting an extra pick in the third. It's a win-win for me. Once again, thank you guys for an awesome night and giving us a place to celebrate our Vikings fandom. I think it's so if the Vikings had their eyes on wide receivers and cornerbacks at 12, the board played out really bad for them because 5 of those guys, right, were off the board before 12.
Sure. Yeah.
Like if Stingley was high up,
right?
Didn't 2 Ohio State receivers go before 12? To pull up the draft order here, but
Olave and
Wilson.
If Drake London was high, right? Like all those dudes were gone by the time it got to 12. So that's another thing we don't know is, well, maybe they had 3 scenarios that just kind of went poof, and they're like, all right, I guess we're trading back now.
Right. But you still took, I don't know. I mean, you went so far backwards, though, and to the point that you brought up earlier, Phil, you didn't exactly win the trade and recoup. See, if I give you 12, you got to give me more on the back end of that trade. Like, I need more from you than what they got. The flip of second-round picks is fine, but then I need something else besides your third-round pick, or I'm not going to trade with that team. Because the assumption then is that Detroit was making the best offer. And I'm sorry, I find that hard to believe that was like the only one, because it's not like that's a great return for the Vikings. Well,
but here's the other thing. Ordinarily, the biggest returns come when a team gets the quarterback itch, right? The Kansas City Chiefs decide we're going to move up 17 spots for Pat Mahomes. The Washington football team moves up because RG3 all those years ago. And so maybe the Vikings thought, oh, this will be great. If this, and this happens, and there's still Malik Willis on the board and Kenny Pickett, well, there's 2 or 3 teams, the Saints, the Steelers. There's going to be teams that are going to be competing with each other to move up.
Right.
And obviously teams weren't jumping over each other to draft Malik Willis last night. Mm-hmm. So, not to like paint the Vikings as victims or anything, but they kind of get screwed. Derek Stingley gone with the 3rd pick. There was no fighting to move up for quarterbacks last night, so the offers probably weren't as juicy.
But if that's the case internally, because you basically play out all possibilities, right? In that case, internally, I think that you have to say, what happens if all of these guys are gone by 12 and we get offers, but they're not good enough? Because in my opinion, the Lions offer not good enough.
Yeah, and they disagree.
Right.
They think it was.
Well, and because I think they panicked probably. And that's where I'm going to stand pat and say, okay, here's who I'm going to take there.
Mark via the SKOR North app here says, I want to apologize for many of my YouTube posts last night. I haven't combed through all of them yet because Dex, you had the screen, and Judd and I were kind of without the monitor there.
Two posts.
He goes, my comments were inappropriate and harsh. I am embarrassed at some of them. Mark, dude, what happened?
You're fine, Mark.
You just freak out? I really lost
Never
it.
apologize, Mark. Never apologize. When you get into the surly, don't apologize later.
He said, I really lost it with the trade, and maybe I wanted you and Judd to be more angry and fired up. You both seem much more measured and patient than you used to be, and maybe I wanted more fire. It's all good. Trade seems poor, but Cine looks like a very good player and will be for years before anyone
I got to go
can
watch
score a draft,
his stuff now.
Just go read his comments.
Or his comments.
Just lighten us up.
I was, and I remain perplexed. Like it's hard. It's hard for me right after a pick to get really mad, or after a trade of that sort.
Well, you won't know for 3 years whether you should be mad or not.
Right. But I think it's very fair to be perplexed.
Listen, when the Timberwolves lose a 26-point lead in Game 3, I'm pissed.
Yep.
In the moment, and you all saw that.
Mm-hmm.
The draft is a crapshoot. So we all have opinions on guys, and we all have hopes, and we all think I think Malik Willis has a huge ceiling. I think but for the most part, even the front offices are kind of like, oh, these are all lottery tickets. We think this lottery ticket has a better chance to cash than that lottery ticket, but they're both lottery tickets. So to me, it's hard to get super worked up about anything that happens in the draft. It would have to be something very, very, very specific, or you need to draft a quarterback and then you don't. Or honestly, if I'm a Packer fan and they have 2 picks in the first round and there's wide receivers all over the place and they draft a freaking linebacker.
Yeah. Again, a linebacker
okay,
too.
I would be pissed about that if I were a Packer fan. I think it's hilarious because I'm not a Packer fan.
Well, I'm pissed. I'm just not apoplectic. And look, we all want to give Kwesi and this new staff a chance. They just got here. Yeah. They're doing very little to make me feel confident, but I mean, we're trying. Because if this had been Rick, if Rick had done this exact thing, and to your point, he probably does not. But if he had, we would be like, oh my God, typical Rick, right? But I mean, there's no typical Kwesi at this point. We don't know. And I'm trying to be like, let's be patient. Let's give him a chance. And then he just keeps confusing me.
Yeah. Let's give Golf USA a chance, folks.
Yeah.
Maybe last night was the last of the really crappy Minnesota winter weather.
Yeah, the best deals of the year are under one roof on over 10,000 items, new and used, at Golf USA in Eden Prairie. A huge selection of clothing and shoes. I like to look good when I golf. Kwesi had that tie on. I was kind of questioning it. Well, when I golf, I look damn good, okay? That's what I care about. I don't care if I shoot over 100. I like to look good when I golf. And my friends at Golf USA are helping me out. They're locally owned and managed. Stop in this weekend. They're on the corner of Prairie Center and Flying Cloud Drive. Golf USA.
Also, our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company have been helping us at SKOR North for a number of years here. They're one of our great partners. And they've been helping business owners throughout the state of Minnesota and beyond for over 100 years. They're based in Owatonna since the early 1900s, and they specialize in very specific industries that they know and they appreciate, and they're not just trying to sell as many policies as possible. So the connection they make with you on a human level and a business level is unlike anything you're going to find in the industry. Federatedinsurance.com to find a full list of those industries. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. All right. The feedback continues here with Marty Lincoln via the SKOR North app. Missed the party last night. Looked like a great time at Surly. Can you and Judd dive into what draft value chart Kwesi was looking at when making the trade with Detroit? In my opinion, how does a team jump 20 slots and not have to give up their 2023 first rounder? Look at the trade when the Beard jumped up a few spots to get Fields. The Bears. He misses the typo.
James Harden traded
I was like, James Harden.
What's going on with James Harden?
And I just read what's on the prompter. And gave up their 2022 first rounder. Please make it make some sense. So, all right, just on the draft value charts here, and Kwesi has referenced them that, we all kind of use them as starting points. So there's the OG draft value chart was created by Jimmy Johnson 30 years ago, right? And that's the one that's the most publicized. And according to that OG draft value chart, the Vikings got fleeced by the Lions by a couple 100 points or something. It was by the equivalent of a second or third round pick or something. Mm-hmm. So I think according to that value chart, the way that trade would be even is if the Vikings, I believe, kept their second round pick or if the Lions kicked in an extra whatever pick or two.
Sure.
But there's some newer charts from ESPN and PFF that actually show it was more of an even trade, or that the Vikings won the trade by the value equivalent of a 4th-round pick. So,
again,
it just depends on.
Take your value charts and shove them. This trade doesn't feel right. Yeah, no, I don't mind them, but I. Okay, here's my problem with sports. Analytics and stats are awesome, and I think they're useful, and I think they're fun. But when that's all you go by, when it's just like the trade, I mean, at some point in time, you have to look at who's available, right? Like, you're talking about the 12th pick, and you're telling me you didn't feel comfortable with anybody there, and so you made a trade that's even questionable.
Yeah,
I feel like Kwesi wants to be. He's friends with GMs, and he calls them, and he's trying to, and it's like, okay, this is a good trade for both of us. Screw that. It's the Detroit Lions. If I don't win the damn trade, we ain't making the trade. I don't care if this guy was my lifelong friend since kindergarten. If he works for the bleeping Detroit Lions, I'm winning that trade. Or we're not making it. This is sports.
Yeah, I don't. The Lions, I know they're a division opponent, but they're the Lions, man. Like if it was the Packers are a more, despite the Packers' weird draft tendencies, and they have whiffed big time with positional value and drafting a quarterback, a couple years ago. The Packers are a more savvy front office. I would avoid them in the draft. The Lions, but who cares? Like, are we all of a sudden to say that, oh my God, because the Lions identified Williams at 12, that I don't love the trade, but but like the Lions factor to me is not part of why I don't like the trade.
But the Lions are the kid who has to give up his lunch money to the bully, and now the bully took his dollar and gives him 75 cents back.
Or is the bully now engaging in nonviolent resistance?
That's my problem. Yeah, and that's the problem. I want violence here. If you don't wake up and choose violence against the Detroit Lions, then what the hell are we doing?
I mean, we got a guy who's shaving off kneecaps, and he got a stud at 2nd overall in Aiden Hutchinson and Jameson Williams. So they
okay, well, until they find someone to throw the ball to Williams, then
that's also true. You don't trust Jared Goff? Yeah, good luck.
Take their lunch money.
Okay, Sandy Bowe via the SKOR North app says, was someone peeing behind you at last night's draft party?
Not to my knowledge.
I don't know. I was not turned around that way. But did someone go back there and take a leak at some point?
You know what? It was probably the rain. She probably heard the rain.
Okay.
And probably mistaked it.
Or someone made it rain.
Or actually someone was peeing behind us. I honestly have no idea.
Somebody might have made it rain.
I don't want to say anything more.
Let's see here. Bob Cristofono via the SKOR North app says, do you think that the Vikings traded down to save money? What is the 12th pick paid and what is the 32nd pick paid? They're cap strapped. Still doesn't absolve them from not getting a 2023 pick as well. Looks like the new regime is in over its head and we'll have to wait a while for someone with experience to take control again. So Bob just accused the Vikings of saving money and just fired the front office for incompetence right there.
I think where Bob is maybe on the right track, and I'm not at the point of firing people yet, but I think where he is maybe going down the right path is what agenda are they serving? And like who's making the decisions? And how much does it doesn't feel like there's what's the word I'm looking for? Congruent plan in place here. It feels like they're trying to go down far too many paths and serve agendas. And that's my fear is collaboration turning into actually too many chefs in the kitchen?
I mean, there are a lot of there's a couple wolves in the kitchen.
Yep.
We know that for sure.
And they got knives.
So
and meat cleavers.
The question on the salaries, I just found this on Over the Cap.
Yep.
The Vikings with the 12th pick. So this is all slotted. This changed like 12 or 15 years ago, I think after the Bradford contract. Yes. It used to be a negotiation where it was just a kind of a blank canvas and guys would hold out. And then they came up with slotted salaries for the draft picks. And the 12th pick in year one, let's see here. These are rookie cap numbers by rounded picks. So this would be a $3.6 million cap number at the 12th pick. And the 32nd pick is a $2.3 million cap number.
Okay.
So they save $1.3 million to the cap on a $208 million salary cap or whatever. So it's not really a money saving move. At least, no, I don't think it is. Bad Dad Joke via the SKOR North app says, the board yesterday could not have broken worse for the Vikings than it did. This is kind of what I said earlier. Hopefully they rebound on day 2 and come away with Booth Jr., who's a great cornerback. He's the 23rd player on the board for PFF, an edge rusher, and a new starting center. Anything less than I call this draft disappointing. We kind of talked about that earlier. I agree. The board broke very poorly for the Vikings.
The board did break poorly, but I think that you have to be prepared then to say, what if we don't get a trade offer that we don't like? Do we feel forced into making said trade? And I just feel like they made a trade because they got too cute. They got too smart. I think there were guys there at 12 that I would have taken.
I actually like this next comment the best. This is a great way to sort of wrap this portion of Feedback Friday. We'll get to another section here, but Jonathan Jepson via the SKOR North app. I was angry when they made the trade. Then I thought about how excited I was after last year's draft, and then about every other draft I followed since 1997 and realized it's all a giant game of luck anyway. We've drafted a lot of players I was excited to have on the team who ended up being crap. We've drafted a lot of great players who we've lost to injuries, domestic assaults, bad surgeries, cancer. Kenichi Desert, right? Who knows how this is going to play out?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. That's a great perspective from Jonathan right there.
It is fantastic, but just to be sports dad and bring you down a little bit, Jonathan, here, I think what the important thing is, let's look at the trends, or let's look at the tendencies. That's probably a better term than trends because Kwesi has not been in the job that long. Let's look at the tendencies of what he's doing and how it fits, and that's what concerns me more. So, yeah, I mean, if this was his first move, I wouldn't like it, but I would be a lot more deferential in how I talked about it. But there's a lot of things since he got the job that just flat out confuse me. And this continues the pattern of sports dad confusion.
Okay.
Yeah, because that point's a great point. It's the draft.
It is. This is why I don't, every year, I'm mostly neutral on my, like I'll sway one way or the other. Like when it comes to value of a trade, I might have a stronger take on something. The Vikings passed on this guy and drafted this guy. I don't know. When the Vikings drafted Kevin Williams, were people excited? Not really.
Oh, they're pissed because they missed their pick.
He wound up becoming one of the great players in franchise history.
I believe that they lost out on Ryan Sims, right? Didn't the Chiefs, I think the Chiefs grabbed Sims and the Jaguars, they actually fell 2 slots because I think Byron Leftwich went to Jacksonville and then the Vikings got back in queue.
So teams saw their chance to just sprint to the podium and get their picks in.
Yeah.